hand over to Jane Parfitt to take us through her report, and I will move that it be received. Can I have a seconder for that? Andrew Turner, and over to you, Jane.
Thank you, Leanne. As usual, I'll take it as read, but just a couple of things to highlight. Our botanic staff swept the decks at the Ellerslie International Flower Show, so we're very proud to see that happening. They did a great job there. Second thing of note, on 3.4, you will see a recommendation around sensing cities. I think it's self-explanatory, but you'll be aware that we did in fact sign off the draft annual plan, which included a note that capital from the Capital Endowment Fund be made available for projects including sensing cities. If anything should come up prior to the adoption of the annual plan, I recommend Council deal with it in the Earthquake Recovery Committee, and of course there would have to be a comprehensive report going to that. So you perhaps need to adopt that resolution formally if that's your wish.
To give them power to act. So can we change the amend it with Councillor Turner's agreement that the that it's called Sensing City rather than Sensing Cities.
Yep. Delegate authority to the Earthquake Recovery Committee to make any decisions
on that matter.
Should it be necessary.
Should it be necessary. Actually, can we deal with that by way of separate resolution? Yeah. The reason is that I, at the point that comes to the Earthquake Recovery Committee, I will have to declare a conflict of interest. I didn't know this at the time that I met with Sensing City, but my sister is on their board, and that creates a conflict of interest, which means that I won't be able to participate, I believe, in a decision around funding. So, but I'm going to take some advice on that. Literally, I didn't know until the last week. So it's been a little bit difficult for me in that regard. So, so I'd prefer that somebody else move that as a separate amendment. David East and Phil Clearwater. Do people want to deal with that amendment separately now so that we can clear that? Is there any comment on that? Oh, well, I'll put that amendment. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried. So that's now part of the formal recommendation, but I invite you to carry on.
Thank you. Not much more to say. You will recall we were looking to have a new leadership structure in place by the end of March. I think that will happen. We may not, everybody might not be here. I'm unclear on that yet, but the structure should be in place by that time. And then the rest is really questions and answers. Some you have answers to in this report, and some will go to the other committee. So I guess I'll just look for any other questions to add to the long list of
Jimmy, Yanni.
One question regarding to paragraph 4, internal organization update. Because recently the council recruited a new executive leader team, seven either the kind of executive or director, etc. But I'm concerned what's the job description between the director or office of chief executive and the new CEO, and also if the new CEO, if being recruited, if he has a different view, how to remediate this kind of situation, because never happened before.
I think we did discuss that prior to commencing the structure for the new leadership team. That was a way back in about October, and we took the decision jointly between myself and the councillors that we really needed to keep everything moving in parallel. It is unusual, you are correct, but we're in unusual times in Christchurch, and we felt that we should progress everything in parallel so that we don't lose any time. The alternative would have left us not in a very positive position.
Okay, thank you.
Yanni Johansson.
Thank you. Just in regards to the, on page 379, the McGreedy Winder report, are there recommendations from that I mean, how are we going to, as a council, either agree to that, give feedback on it, adopt recommendations in it? What's the process around it?
That one is dealt with firstly by the Chief Executives advising the Mayoral Forum, and it's the Mayoral Forum, which is all the mayors, so it's the mayor that will direct how that is used in conjunction with the other mayors, because this particular report was for all the councils.
I'm just kind of curious, because this is how the elected ECAN was dismissed, that these things happen without us as a council having been clear about what mandate we give to either the chief executive or the mayor around our view of how we should work collaboratively with people in our region. So I guess I'd really like to know a really clear process for which any views that are represented to government actually come through us first, so that I think it protects both the chief executive and the mayor, so that you've got the support of us behind whatever representation is made. I am really concerned that we put in place a process by which we can consider any of these recommendations. I mean, I welcome the idea that we would look at how we work together, and as we've done in the triennial agreement, we've just basically ratified what we had previously, and things around public passenger transport, for example, shared IT systems, I think are really things we should be looking at. But I think we do need to understand as a council discrete work program and how that fits into what else we're doing in the broader context.
Yeah, no,
So-
that's a fair comment, and I mean it's probably more for me to comment on rather than the acting chief executive, as I'm the council's representative on the Mayoral Forum. So I will certainly take that on board. There is a Mayoral Forum meeting tomorrow, so I will indicate to them, as I think I undertook last time, I would indicate to them that I no longer have any authority to speak to them on any matter rather than, unless it's been through the council first. So I think that's been made pretty clear.
I think that's good. I think what we've got is we've got a piece of work that's being done, which I'm not clear about what its purpose is. So we've got circulated the report, but what I don't understand is what is the process from here on in to actually respond to that report.
Yeah, I will come back to you on that.
Okay,
That's my
you.
responsibility to do that, and I do apologise. I'm sure I've forgotten to do it.
Just the second question is, I'm really concerned over the area-wide mitigation. We're told on page 380, Port Hill demolition. So these demolitions are happening. It says staff have asked Sarah to organise a briefing for council. I'm just not sure how long we wait. It's already been in the media. So have you got any time frame for that? And then the second part of that question last time was, when is the report coming back? I know you're saying it's going to be in April. I really think that that's far too late. As we know, neighbourhoods and communities are being demolished on the Port Hills. And I think it would be really helpful to actually identify areas where there's a possibility of area-wide mitigation. Much of this work is already being done, and I think just continuing to work with Sarah doesn't give me any confidence, given that they've always been quite opposed to mitigation. So, you know, how can we actually, as a council, work out the areas that we think it's feasible, and then go to Sarah and government and say, look, this is what we think, rather than kind of have them seem to be leading a process which is taking too long and means that we're missing out on these opportunities. Is there any way to fast track this, is basically what I'm saying, and for us to take more leadership?
On the second one first, I think the Port Hills working arrangements have worked well at working together because we do have different responsibilities. So my advice would be don't disturb that now. In terms of the getting there any faster, it is frustrating, I know, for everybody, and especially for those who either live there or want to live there. But we keep getting new information, and there is still information to come. March is next week for a workshop, and then followed by a report. So I guess I'm saying I don't think we can speed it up And we will go back to Sarah and ask for a time frame on the
But if I may,
demolition
what is
plan.
the information that you require from Sarah that we actually, or the community, haven't already got? My understanding is there's been a number of geotech consultants that have looked at mitigation options in the Port Hills, and the people that made the presentation had a very detailed presentation about what looked like a relatively straightforward, simple request to save, I think it was up to about 12 houses with some pretty localised mitigation. I don't understand why this is taking so long and what new information we need to start identifying these areas.
I'll go back and see if I can give you a clearer explanation.
Can we come back to this at the Earthquake Recovery Committee of the Whole? So perhaps if I could ask you, Jane, to have a full report to the next meeting, because I think that the concern that Councillor Johansson is raising is a valid one. The complexity of what has occurred is added to by the government's decision to red zone land that may have in fact been able to be green zoned if the mitigation proposals had gone ahead at the outset. Would that be a fair comment?
Yeah, I think the fact is that you could do mitigation and you could actually save people being able to stay in their houses and in their communities is really important. So you can mitigate the risk.
Yeah.
We know that lots of this work has already been done. I think Sarah or the government have taken a view that they would not do mitigation. We, as a council who are funding 50% of what's happening in the Port Hills, seem to be not being able to make any traction around identifying the areas. I think it's more fundamental than that. They're spending our money doing what they want without giving effect to what we've asked for.
Yeah. So we'll put the matter on the agenda for the Committee of the Whole, which is next week. No pressure.
No pressure.
No pressure. Next week. Yanni, is that all right?
Yeah. And I think if someone could go back to the people that made the deputation to explain really what work's been done since, that would also be really helpful.
Yeah. I don't know that that can be done in the time frame, but let's put it on the agenda for next week, which gives us a clear time frame for reporting back to the Committee of the Whole. Pauline Cotter.
Thank you. My question's on a similar line, just regarding the Flockton Basin and the flooding, and we have a time and date to be confirmed for a urgent briefing. So we've asked for that 2 weeks ago, and I do appreciate the complexity of this, and I know it's going to be a tricky one, but like Yanni, can we have an update on the time for that, please?
Yeah.
Even if it's a briefing to tell us.
Yeah, but again, it might actually be better, because I know that the work that's been done with the community is quite significant in terms of the briefings and the written the newsletter that went out to them as well. So I wonder if it is possible to put on the agenda for the meeting next week. They could actually come and do the briefing here with everything up on the screen, and people would be able to see exactly what was going on in the Flockton cluster area.
Thank you.
Not the basin. Yeah, I know, but I think they have a preference not to be referred to as such. Are there any other questions for Jane? Yanni?
The question that came through in two parts, it was around the after-hour call centre. The question really was around are we looking at being able, as part of the new Justice and Emergency Precinct, to look at an after-hours emergency call centre? So, you know, it kind of hasn't been captured in the response. I'm really concerned that, you know, we went to Palmerston North on the basis that they didn't have earthquake risk. They had a big earthquake. When we needed it, it wasn't able to be used. I think the idea of having a strategic after-hours call centre in Christchurch that could possibly service the South Island around, you know, being in a really resilient building makes a huge amount of sense. But because we haven't been involved in the Justice and Emergency Precinct, and because we're not involved in the decision for the after-hours call centre, I don't know how we as a council, at a governance level, say that this is something we want looked at.
Yeah, I don't think it's right to say that the council hasn't been involved in the Justice Precinct. Council, yes, I know, but that is a governance issue, and you are right. I thought that question was incorrect, but I couldn't remember what the question was. So thank you for bringing that back. We will again respond to that next time.
I would have said it's a simple yes, because it's obvious that in a resilient building, a level 4, is that what you call it?
Yeah, it is a level 4.
Yeah, that you would do that. But I'll come back and confirm.
I don't think we've had a briefing ever on the Justice and Emergency Precinct.
We're having briefings on all of the anchor projects as we go through them.
This is one that the ground's already been turned on, and I think the design's already been done. So I think it would be really useful, because my concern is that you'll do an after-hours contract that will prohibit us from being able to do that strategic, put that thing in. So, you know, there's a short-term issue and then I guess a long-term issue.
If that's your main concern, we'll make sure we don't preclude ourselves from doing that if we go into any arrangements.
Yeah. Excellent. Right, okay, well, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those opposed say no. That's carried.